example 120.1. We're dealing with what's called an age problem. A man is 13 times as old as his son. In 10 years, he will be 3 times as old as his son will be. How old are they now? It's harder to read them than it is to do them. Okay, so first thing I want to deal with is an age problem. Age problems are going to deal with different time periods. And what you want to do is set up the unknowns, their ages in both time periods to begin with. So the first time period, the first sentence, a man is 13 times as old as his son, it doesn't give us a time period. That implies right now. Okay, now is almost always in these problems. So if it doesn't specifically say right now, assume that's what we're talking about. So we got the man and his son, and we have now. Always set their ages up now as what the variables are. So I'm going to say the man's age is M right now, the son's age is S right now. I don't know how old either person is, but I'm using variables to represent what their ages are. So for right now, this moment, if I say how old is the man, the correct answer is M. How old is the son, the correct answer is S. Our job is to find the values of M and S. The second sentence starts off in 10 years. That means 10 years later, right? 10 years later. How does age work?
Every year you go up by 1.
You go up by 1 every year, right? So 10 years later, if the man's M years old right now, in 10 years he's going to be 10 years older, so M plus 10 is going to be his age. The son also is going to age 10 years, so he's S years right now. In 10 years he'll be S plus 10 years old. So now I've got their ages set up in both time frames. I need to start writing equations based on facts in the problem. So the purple fact, right now a man is 13 times as old as his son. Who's older?
The man.
The man, obviously, right? It should be, right? If the son's older than the man, we got some weird thing going on here. So the man's older than the son. 13 times as old as the son. Now here's what happens to people. We go brain dead all of a sudden. We're trying to write an equation and we're not thinking abstractly. We're not putting anything into context. I see man 13 times son, and I see people put 13 times M equals S. That's wrong. Don't write that down, okay? 13 times is right next to the word man, so obviously we have to multiply man times 13 because that's what we're supposed to do. Man is older, son is younger. So I know multiplication by 13 is going to happen, right? M equals S. Using my deduction of reading the sentence and figuring out who's older from the sentence, because sometimes it's not man, and sometimes it's Bob and Charlie, right? Bob is 13 times older than Charlie. I don't know who's older, Bob or Charlie, right? But if I read the sentence correctly, I can determine based on it. So man 13 times as old as son, man's older, son younger, bigger, smaller number times 13 makes bigger number, makes more sense. So again, I know multiplication by 13 has to happen. And if I deal with the abstractness of the variables and establish this is the smaller value, times 13 should make the bigger value, makes more sense. All right? So make sure that you're putting some thought into writing the equations. If you write the equations correctly, everything else is pretty simple on these problems. Second fact, he will be 3 times as old as his son will be. All right? In 10 years. So now it says in 10 years, this fact is true. So now we're using these variables to write an equation. He, being the man, will be 3 times as old as his son. Okay, so again, here's the man, here's the son. Who's older? The man. And we have to take the smaller amount times 3 to make the bigger amount. S plus 10 is still the smaller amount times 3. And make sure that you use parentheses there because S plus 10 is representing one value, the son's age in 10 years, with 2 numbers or 2 objects. And if I simplify that, it's going to be M plus 10 equals 3S plus 30. So just like that, we've got 2 equations, a system of equations, 2 variables. Substitution works really nicely on this one. Since M is equal to 13S, I can just take this 13S and put it in place of that M. So if I do that, I'm going to get 13S plus 10 equals 3S plus 30. I'll move the 3S to the left, makes negative 3S. Move the 10 to the right, makes negative 10. That leaves me with 10 times S is equal to 20. So S is equal to 2. And the question says, how old are they now? and you can see here, right here, now is S for son, M for man. The son is 2 years old right now. The man is 13 times as old as the son. 13 times 2 is 26. So the man is 26, the son is 2. I want to verify the correctness of that. If I add 10 years to both these people, the son will be 12, the man will be 36, right? 36, 3 times as big as 12, right? So everything worked out like it should have with those answers. But again, the right now ages, right now M and S, make sure you get those answers in that manner.